very, very good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this special DDD webinar. My name is Musa Simelane, and today I will be supporting Peter Seal, who is the senior manager in the organization. You might remember him from the metric quantity and quality pass rate webinars. And today he's going to be facilitating and presenting us with a new DDD feature that's coming down the pike. And before I introduce him and allow him to take us through this exciting development, I do want us to first just go through, as usual, the ground rules for this webinar. If you lose signal and leave the Zoom session, please do not worry. You can click the link and rejoin the session as soon as your connection is restored. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A button. These will be answered in the Q&A chat during the presentation. If answers on the Q&A chat are not clear, raise your hand during the Q&A period at the end of the session. All webinars are recorded. Within approximately 24 hours after this presentation, you will receive attendance registers, link to the recording, and the presentation slides. All our attendees are on mute during the session, but if there's an error, we kindly request that you mute yourself to avoid disturbing the webinar. We value your feedback, so please take time to answer the poll questions during or after the session, especially for this session, because we do want to hear from you how you are, what your feeling is about this new feature that we are planning. And finally, please note that the DDD webinar are recorded and are published on our DDD dashboard YouTube channel. This allows education officials to access the recording in their own time and benefit from the content provided. Should you have any questions or concerns with regards to this, please do not hesitate to contact us. And with that, I will hand over to Pete, and while he is taking over the screen here, I do also want to remind us that the dashboard is still 0 rated. That is to say that if you are on MTN or Vodacom or Telkom, if you access the dashboard using those networks, you won't incur any charges. And with that, let's go to today's session. Pete, good morning. Oh, sorry, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Thanks very much. And good afternoon to all of our attendees. Thanks very much for making the time to be with us today. I'm really excited about having another session on this particular topic, being the DDD points scoreboards. I have shared screen. I hope that is now displaying for everyone, that you can see the session agenda. So prior to actually jumping into the meat of this webinar, I just want to cover our agenda and how it's all going to flow. So Musa, thanks very much. Just covered the welcome and ground rules. I'm now obviously going through the agenda and also covering the objectives of today. Then we're going to go into sort of the meat of the session, which is discussing the DDD points scoreboard. So we're going to start off with that, with actually just grounding ourselves on exactly what we're trying to achieve with the DDD points scoreboards within the DDD program. And then, that's going to be a sort of a quick 5 minutes, but we'll spend a bit more time then actually going through a live demonstration of the scoreboards themselves. So there we're going to go into the dashboard, into one of the provinces that has had these scoreboards activated, and just do a bit of a run through of exactly where you'll find them, what they look like, and what information is displayed. Thereafter, we want to spend the bulk of our time on Q&A. So rather than having me speak to you for 50 minutes, I think it'll typically will work a lot better just to have time for us to ask questions of what these scoreboards are all about, and also possibly to give some feedback as well. And then we'll just close off at the end. I think that's where we'll start building in some of the questions that we'd like to ask of you with regard to getting your feedback on the session and the scoreboards themselves. So the objectives of today are threefold. Firstly, it's to introduce the DDD points scoreboard. So this new feature that's recently been launched on the dashboard, but in a very soft fashion. I believe there will be a number of people in this session attending that have seen them. They're pretty hard to miss when you log onto your dashboard and you see your landing page. That is if you are below a provincial level or above a school level. But we're going to go back to the beginning for anyone who's on this call that has not seen them. So don't stress if this is completely new to you and you're just here out of interest saying, okay, well, what are these things? I've seen some communication about them, but I haven't seen them on my DDD dashboard at all. Secondly, yeah, as I mentioned before on the agenda, it's critical that we are here to answer any questions that you may have about this new feature. You know, it is new. It functions slightly differently to the dashboard. So yeah, we absolutely just want to hear any kind of queries or questions that you may have with regard to how it works. And then what's also really critical for us is, as I mentioned, given that it's new, it's great to get feedback from DDD users on how we take this forward. So this is not only, you know, what the functionality could evolve to be, but also how we should be looking to roll out. So where we're effectively at is that we've released this at a non-school level in 4 provinces. There are other 4 that we haven't, would not have seen this at all, and we also have not released to school level users. So come early March next year, we are going to be releasing the scoreboards to the remaining 4 provinces, as well as the 22,000 schools that are on the dashboard. So it's going big. So any feedback prior to that happening is very welcomed. Okay, so back to the very beginning of what the DDD points scoreboards are trying to achieve. And really at the heart of it is just fun and healthy competition with regard to implementing DDD, whether it be in a school, circuit, district, and then province as a whole. And then obviously within that, what it's really looking to do, or this functionality is looking to do, is to drive timely and frequent data submissions, to encourage more widespread use of the DDD dashboard by non-school and school level users. We also want to see, I believe, a greater degree of access among schools. So, I think there are lots of geographies around the country where, 100% of the schools have access to the dashboard, those that are submitting, but there are certain geographies where, there are officials that aren't able to see which schools don't actually have DDD dashboard accounts. And we want to use this as a means to encourage, all the schools that are submitting data to the dashboard to actually have access to the dashboard so that they can start making more informed decisions with their school's data. And then something else that's just quite new, which the DBE has been keen on, is typically submissions have come through, when they're interim submissions during the term, it's typically been attendance data. But what the department wants to move towards is where assessments data is captured and submitted during the term. And that allows HODs, subject advisors, and everyone responsible to actually analyze curriculum-related data during the term and not just have the end-of-term results to analyze. So you could get task-based assessments data coming through during term, and that's something else that you'll see later on. There's an actual metric on the point scoreboards that awards points for when we've picked up assessment data being submitted during the term. Okay, so yeah, I think something else to just reiterate with this is, we were very unsure as to whether to kind of release this in 2020. It's been an incredibly difficult year. It's been very disruptive. We did make the decision not to release to schools. They've been under a lot of pressure just to, open in a safe environment and try and operate in the most safe environment possible. And we didn't want to place any additional expectation on them. So that's another reason why we've done a sort of soft release in 4 provinces to allow users to get familiar with the functionality, to give us some feedback. And that's really what the last sort of month and a half has been about. So where we're at is we want to kind of gear this up and release. And what we want to do is really communicate and stress that this is about fun and healthy competition. It's not meant to be something punitive. It's really meant to be about, hey, there's a scoreboard. We've earned DDD points based on our submissions and usage metrics. Let's try and compete against our peers with it. Okay, with that, I'm going to then just do a quick outline of how the DDD points scoreboards work, and then you will see this translated into the actual graphics that we have on the scoreboard. So in a nutshell, how these work is that every single month, you'll have the regions, districts, circuits, clusters, and then next year schools earning DDD points. So there'll be a number of points earned per month for each of those entities. And that'll be based on certain dashboard submissions and usage indicators. So for the non-school entities, there are 3 submissions indicators and 3 usage indicators, which you will see just now. And then based on the points level, so for example, between 0 and 39 points is a bronze level, and then 40 to 59 is silver, etc., etc. The regions, districts, circuits, clusters, and then obviously schools as well next year are awarded badges. You can call them a badge or a level, but we typically call them a badge, and you'll see why. And that's just based on your monthly score that you get. So you could have a district moving from a bronze to a silver badge based on a points increase, etc. And you'll see that just now. And then importantly, it's not just about earning a certain badge. It's very fun to see where everyone else is ranked. So if you're a district, you're going to see where the other districts are ranked and how many points how many DDD points they've got, and you're also able to track whether you're up or down in positions. So not just your rank. So that's where the real kind of fun competition comes in. So how it works is there are 6 indicators which each earn you a certain number of points. You could potentially earn a certain number of points out of them. Those total up to an amount out of 100, which you'll see now. You get a badge awarded, either bronze, silver, gold, or platinum, and then you're also ranked in relation to your peers. Okay, so with that, I'm going to move to do a quick demo of the scoreboards themselves, and then we're going to open up for Q&A. So is my screen clear?
I see it fun on my side, Pete. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. So let's log on. Okay, so my landing page is South Africa because I work across a number of provinces, but I'm going to navigate down to one of the provinces where we have switched on the scoreboards. Just a quick note, we haven't developed the scoreboards for a provincial level. I will explain that in a bit more detail now. The reason being is that we were advised and we didn't feel comfortable with comparing provinces on DDD points when the operating environments are very, very different. One province may have way more rural areas, lower internet connectivity. So it wouldn't, and then also in addition to that, their provinces are in different sort of life stages of DDD implementation. So somewhere like KZN has only recently got started implementing DDD, whereas somewhere like Gauteng or Limpopo has had a longer track record. So we haven't quite worked out how to do the provincial scoreboards, but that's something where we can chat about in a bit more detail later around what the possibilities are for actually having some kind of provincial view. But with that, I'm going to navigate down to a district in Mpumalanga, and yeah, as I mentioned, very hard to miss. If you're in one of the provinces at a non-school level and have seen this big flag pop out here, that's indicating that you've got your DDD points scoreboard up, and will then give you a very simple summary of your number of points, your position, and the change in your points and position from the previous month. So whenever you log into the dashboard and you hit a landing page of an entity, be it your entity or somewhere below, so if you're a district and then you go down to a circuit, this DDD scoreboard flag will pop out for 10 seconds, and then it will collapse into a sort of smaller finger, as you can see here. But very easily, you can just click to expand, and that's going to give you the rest of the summary information. So we can see for Gatsebande, for the latest DDD point scoreboard, they were first out of 4 districts. We can also see that they are on 34 points at bronze level. They're up 6 points from the previous month, and there was no position difference from previous months, which meant in the previous month, they were actually in first. then to get more detail on this, you can just click on that flag again, and that then opens up the points scoreboard for Gatsabande for October. So I'm just going to explain the information at the top of the screen quickly. We can see here the month is listed. We can also see that the calculations for the October scoreboards were performed on the 1st of November. So retrospectively, it did all the calculations for October. And then the next calculation, so for the November DDD points scoreboard, or the November points, they will come out very soon. Actually, on Sunday is when we do the calculation. So the first Sunday of the month. So those will be displayed next week. So at the top here, we can see that Gatsabande had 34 points, DDD points in October. And that, based on the sliding scale here, corresponds to a bronze badge, because when you get between 0 and 39 points for a month, that's bronze, 40 to 59 silver, 60 to 79 gold, and then platinum is 80 to 100. And then the same information displayed on the right here that we saw on the flag on the summary page of the district, in that they were first last month. That's why there's 0 position change, and they managed to go up 6 points between September and October. If I then scroll down, we can see the overall standings for the month. So as we know, Gatsabande was first out of the 4 districts, and we can see the other districts in Mpumalanga and their points. So in Nkangala in second, Botlabela and Ehlanzeni down in 4th position. When you obviously have longer lists, so potentially circuits, as we'll see just now, you're able to scroll through this list and see the top and bottom performers and find yourself. You'll always be highlighted, so it'll be easy enough to find your district or circuit or school once those are released. And then probably the first question that anyone asks when seeing this for the first time is, okay, that's great that I got 34 points and that's at a bronze badge or bronze level. How is it that you got to that score? And that information is provided below. So just scroll down the screen and you'll get to the understanding your score section. So we can see the total here of 34 out of 100 points. But what's more valuable is the breakdown of that 34 points. So there are 6 individual metrics here. The 3 submissions ones being the previous term final submissions, the average weekly submissions, weekly submissions contain, and the weekly submissions containing assessments. And then there are 3 usage indicators, which are users logging into the dashboard, users downloading dashboard reports, and then schools with at least 1 dashboard account. So there are obviously now, you can see here, a certain number of points available for each of these indicators, right? Or a certain number of points available based on, and then determined by your performance on each of these indicators. So for previous term final data submissions, there are a total of 15 points available, 20 here for average weekly submissions, and so on and so forth. And that gets us then obviously all the way up to the potential 100. So what I'm going to do now very quickly is just run through each of these metrics so everyone is clear on how they are worked out. And as you can see, there's a quick tip here saying you can hover your cursor over each metric and you can see how the score was calculated. So if I go to hover over this particular donut, the previous term final submissions, it'll tell you there that this metric is calculated as the number of schools that have submitted their previous term's final database divided by the total number of schools in the entity. So what this meant was at the end of October, it was the term 3 database that was due. And at that point in time, 38% of the schools had submitted that final database. And that corresponds to a points of 4, which you can see on the bottom right-hand table. So the score is between 30 and 39%, so there's 4 points. What will then, which is definitely going to happen, is when the November scoreboards are calculated, the percent of schools that have submitted the final term 3 database is going to be much higher. I don't know exactly what the number is now, but it's going to be a much higher percent, in which case those points for November will rack up. There should be above sort of 90% submissions, and you would see, probably the full 15 points for final term submissions being earned by Khatsibande. Moving on to average weekly submissions. So as we know, it's not just about end of term submissions, making timely, it's not just about end of term submissions, not making timely decisions is really about getting interim data onto the dashboard. So this next metric measures the weekly submissions of the schools. And how it does that is by taking the average weekly submissions rate. So for the month, right? So say we've got in November, there are 4 weeks, and 20% of the schools in week 1 submit weekly data to the dashboard. 30% of schools in week 2 submit data to the dashboard. 20% in week 3, and then again 30% in week 4. We would have an average of 25% weekly submissions. So that's how this metric is calculated, and actually earns you more points than the final term submission because it requires a bit more sort of repeated behavior, and obviously more difficult to entrench. The next metric obviously depends on the weekly submissions, but all that the scoreboards are looking at here is looking at those weekly submissions. What percent of them had assessment data in them? So if we look back at the month of data we received from, say, 100 schools, and in this case, 42% of those weekly submissions actually contained assessment data, we record that, and then points are earned on that basis. So as I mentioned earlier, this is really trying to encourage that behavior in schools where the capturing, moderation, and submission, the marking, moderation, and capturing and submission takes place during the term rather than all getting lumped on a administrator's desk right at the end of the year, because we can't get to more timely decision making without timely data. Then onto the usage metrics, we've got the percent of users logging onto the dashboard. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit so you can see the explanation. So this metric is calculated as the number of users that logged onto the dashboard in the past month divided by the total number of individuals that have dashboard access accounts. So if we're in a district and say there are 200 officials that have DDD dashboard access accounts, and there are 300 schools and all of them all have dashboard access accounts, that's, say, a potential 500 or so dashboard users. What this is measuring is going, what percent of those 500 users have logged onto the dashboard in the past month? So for Khatsibande, out of all the officials and school level users that have dashboard accounts, Khatsibande had 9% of them in October that logged onto the dashboard. The next metric is very similar, and that's just what percent of users have downloaded dashboard reports, which are obviously critical for data-driven decision making. And in Khatsibande's case, in October, there were 3%. These stats are obviously quite a bit lower this year, given the fact that a lot of curriculum data has been missing from the SASAM submission. So, there hasn't been as much reason to be on and analyzing data because there's been such incomplete data. But what we believe is obviously next year, when hopefully things return to a relative normal, those submissions coming through at the end of term will be a lot more meaningful in terms of the assessment data in them, allowing for analysis. And then finally, as I'd mentioned also before, the percent of schools with at least one dashboard account is also put here. And this is just to kind of encourage universal access to the dashboard. So this is very high in Botlhabela. We've got 97% of the schools that have data on the dashboard have access accounts. But it does happen in some geographies where this could be as low as sort of 60, 70%. And obviously, those schools are submitting data to the dashboard but aren't able to access their data on it, and that needs to be rectified. So this can really help district officials to identify where there's a need to go and create access and then train those schools. All right, so that's effectively the functionality in a nutshell. What one is also able to do is go back, you know, a month or two and go and see how things were in the previous month and where things have stacked up. But that should really kind of give you a historical view. But if you're looking at the latest kind of month, you're able to see where you need to improve things and where there are a lot of points up for grabs. So, you know, if we look at the usage indicators, 25 potential points for users logging onto the dashboard and 20 points for users downloading reports. So that's, those two together are a potential 45 points out of the 100, just the two indicators. So you can also see, you know, where would we need to push to earn greater points and then climb up the rankings. So Musa, I'm going to pause there before I go down to circuit level and just check if there are any questions.
Thanks, Pete. No questions thus far, except for one that maybe may not be directly related. Just a question as to how does one gain access to the DDD dashboard? So what I've done is that I've forwarded that person our help desk email and phone number. That's what we encourage we do, colleagues. We will also, in fact, let me just share it for all of us. Just get ahead of ourselves a little bit. Just share it for all of us. Our help desk, if you are wanting to gain access to the dashboard, please contact us. We'd love to assist with that. Other than that, Pete, no other question. I see there's a hand
raised. Then.
Yeah, I see that hand raised too. Should I connect them, Pete?
Yeah, please go ahead. This is guys. It's Friday. Let's have a chat. I don't want to just be talking here. I'd love to hear your questions and comments.
This is Leonard Ngoeba. Leonard, I've just given you permission to speak. If you could just unmute yourself. Bottom left of the screen, you could click on the, there we go. Hi, Leonard.
Morning, Peter.
Morning. Alan, can you hear me?
Love it?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
We hear you, Leonard.
I'm saying I was listening to your presentation, but now I tried to log on my dashboard in my phone, looking for this board points. Then I couldn't see it on the dashboard where I'm looking at.
Okay. Which province are you in, Leonard?
Is Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape. Okay. We haven't switched them on for Eastern Cape yet.
Okay.
It was one of the. It was yeah. The sort of the indication was from the provincial manager that we just hold off for the province until March next year. However, if there's, I mean, we can quite easily switch it on, but we'll need to just have that conversation with the powers that be. I think Fiola may even be on. I think I saw her in the participants earlier, so that is potentially a conversation. We're more than happy to switch it on. It's just we didn't want to bombard everyone with new functionality when it's been such a stressful year. But I don't know, Fiola, if you want to connect with us afterwards or even now, we can speak about switching on at a non-school level for Eastern Cape. However, bearing in mind that it is exams, we may not want to distract everyone, but yeah, it would be up to you.
Yeah. So Pete, maybe a question from my side, if you will allow.
Yes.
So the question there is, if I'm someone in a circuit, will I be able to view what other circuits are performing like in terms of this scoreboard?
Okay. So yes and no. So you'll be able to see their total points and their rank, but you won't be able to see the detail of their score. So in this case where I've you know, say I was the district director in Khatsibande or a you know, CS or DCS and curriculum, whatever district level user you are, you can access your DDD point scoreboard by opening the new tab, and you can see, yes, here's my score and all the detail on my score, and I can see what the other districts have scored in their rank, but I can't see any more than that. So it's probably quite similar to the dashboard in that regard. You won't be able to get into the nitty-gritty of how did Nkangala's circuits do. or how did their schools do on the DDD points. You can just see their total. However, when you're in your own entity, so say you're in Katsibande, a district level user can very much or very easily navigate down as per usual to a new level on the dashboard. And here I'm going to click on Highveld Ridge West and navigate down to that particular dashboard page, and I can see there's point scoreboard. So there at silver level for the month. They actually would have got close to gold last month because they're 9 points down. So for example, here, if you're a circuit manager and you click on the DDD point scoreboard flag here for the circuit, it will open up only for Highveld Ridge West. However, it will show you all the other circuits which you can scroll through and what they scored in October in terms of DDD points. I hope that answers the question.
That answers me, Pete. Thank you very much. I also have Gregory McKay in the chat, and they have a question. They're saying, is there a graph summary showing performance trend? Maybe if I can also add to their question, Pete, will there be a report that can pull some of the points data?
So we haven't scoped that yet, but I think that's a fantastic question. And it was something that we wanted to build into like phase 2. So I think it would be brilliant if you're sitting in October at the end of the year and you can see how you did from February all the way onward, throughout the year, and see, okay, well, we got gold then, and then went down to silver, and actually do the trend analysis, because that's something that the dashboard is typically liked to bring to the party is trend analysis. So I think that's definitely a feature that we want to build in, and I will put a sort of I definitely will put in a recommendation for phase 2, along with having a provincial summary view that can kind of show how the districts are performing, etc. Because there are provincial stakeholders that need to see this kind of information quite quickly. So yeah, thank you, Gregory. I think that's a fantastic question, and it's definitely something that we are going to look at for phase 2. If you would like to, obviously I think you have to register and provide your details, but it would be great to chat to you about how you think it could look, because we believe there could be some space in this section where you get a bit of a trend over time, that it's not just a bit more of a static view of between 1 and 2 months, and you can actually see how you're tracking over time. With regard to like extracting or a report, Musa, there hasn't been anything scoped as yet. However, I do think we will be analyzing that data next year, and I think there's so much cool stuff we can do with it. It's not just about saying, oh, this is the best circuit in this district. This could be the best circuit in the province, or this is the most improved circuit in the country for the month. This doesn't necessarily just need to be ring fenced in that area, and we can do stuff to say, oh, this was actually the best performing circuit over the entire year. There's a lot we can do with that kind of data over time. So definitely something to look into. And thank you for the question.
Wonderful, thanks, Pete. I do have a comment from Jacqueline Busisiwe-Sikhuwa. Before I get to her comment, I want to prepare Zivai. I saw them here in the audience, and I put him in the panelists because there was something that happened in his province that I think is of some insight. While Zivai prepares himself, Jacqueline says, good day, network is very unstable here. Happy about the scoreboard idea, because I'm definitely going to encourage schools to use the dashboard. So fantastic feedback from her there, don't you think?
Thank you, Jacqueline. Yeah, she's a wonderful DDD champion for us there in Mpumalanga.
We will be having in our polls, ladies and gentlemen, just look out for that. The last 2 questions there are directly going to be trying to survey how we are feeling. Are we excited about these changes like Jacqueline is? Are we neutral? Or how are we feeling about these changes? This is something that I will display very soon. But I see Zivai is ready. Good afternoon, Zivai.
Good afternoon, Musa. How are you?
Very good. You're coming loud and clear. Just share with us an event and that happened in your province as we were testing it.
Yeah, well, we did have SSMs, Luritz administrators, who actually used the scoreboards to actually clear their master list. So what happened in that case was a certain circuit was actually bottom of the ranking there. And the reason why was because they were actually penalized, for a lack of a better word, for 4 schools that had not submitted data. But it actually turned out that those 4 schools are actually not on the master list because those schools are closed, you know. Yeah, so they have been using that to just compete with themselves, to also push something like weekly submissions and all that. So yeah, like it's still early days, but there are those small pockets of success that we actually witnessing. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much, Ziva. An unintended consequence there, or did you have that in the plans, Pete?
No, it's quite an interesting one, because we had conversations with several EMIS officials, and it turned out that from our perspective, we had wanted to bring in this fun competition with DDD points and scoreboards, etc. And kind of motivating us to have data submitted more frequently and data used more frequently. But it looks like this could actually be a tool to also help circuit managers and everyone manage this aspect of their schools, because you can see what's going on a lot quicker. So there's almost like a second bucket of use cases, which is far more around supporting DDD implementation. And yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one where it's a case of, oh, there's actually a mistake in the master list on the dashboard, and that led to it being rectified. So yeah, it's positive, and I think it's like Zavai says, is early days. I think there are a whole bunch of things that can come out of this that we possibly haven't foreseen. But it would be great to hear those stories as we go along. One last thing I want to do, and I'm not sure if we've got another question, but I do want to show what it's going to look like for schools next year in March. We obviously haven't made it live on any dashboard site, but I do have a screenshot of what the schools will see. So I'm just going to go to that quickly, and then I think let's carry on with Q&A. Okay, so here is.
Oh.
Okay, is that now displaying?
I see it fine, Pete. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So this was from our test site. So to that question about the Eastern Cape, we did actually test the functionality in the Eastern Cape. We just hadn't released there. So this particular school is from Nelson Mandela Bay. So very, very similar. The flag will be there for the school to see. They'll see their ranking, etc. Exactly the same. They'll then click on their flag, which will open up the point scoreboard for them. Exactly the same graphics with regard to showing the sliding scale. So the school had actually achieved a silver, very close to gold actually, for that particular month, which was May 2020, and was coming first. And they can also then see all of the other schools in the list. So a circuit manager could quite easily navigate down to one of their schools, click on their scoreboard, and they'll see all of the schools ranked in terms of their points. If the circuit manager or principal wants more detail, they just scroll down, and there's the understanding your score section. So this section for schools only has 5 metrics, unlike the 6 for non-schools. The reason being is that the final metric on the non-school scoreboards was the % of schools with a dashboard access account. We're not going to hold schools accountable for that, because typically that's something run outside of the school. They don't set up their own dashboard access account. So that's something for the district or circuit to sort out, or province, depending on which province you're in and who manages access, but that's not necessarily in the school's control. So we wouldn't put that on here. The rest of the metrics are very similar. We have the previous term final submission, and that's a 0 or 10. You either have or you have not submitted by the end of that month. Whichever historical or past database was due. Weekly submissions in the past month, that's a % of weeks that they've submitted for. Whether the weekly submissions that they submitted, any of them had assessments data in them, that's obviously just a yes or no. So that's 0 or 20 points. Then the number of dashboard logins, you can get up to, if you've done 8 or more, it's the full 25 points for the month. And then finally, the priority dashboard report downloads, that's actually running over the past sort of 3 months, because, once you've downloaded a school achievement report or a principal's dashboard report, whatever it may be for a term, that's for the term. So we'll take a running 3-month view of that. But what we're actually doing with this one is not just saying, oh, download any dashboard report. You're getting points for using certain reports of the dashboard that we have found from various, sort of hundreds of user stories have been the most beneficial. So that's the learner chart report, learner intervention planning report, the school achievement report, principal's dashboard report, and I think then the educator attendance report. So there's subject performance report. So where the LIP report, the learner intervention planning report, is not available, so say in term 4 it's only worked out of a total of potential of 4 reports instead of 5. But that's how the school dashboard will work. And really what it's meant to do, if you can just imagine the departmental hierarchy, is if in order for a district to do well, it needs its circuits to do well. In order for the circuits to do well, they need the schools to do well. So it all kind of cascades down. You're all part of the same team pushing for frequent quality data submissions and increased use of the dashboard measured by logins and report downloads. And then the final thing of, just making sure that all the schools actually have access. And then it's really about getting everyone through that healthy competition at a school level, within a circuit or between the circuits within a district, getting those points up, you get the district to be more competitive with the other districts. So you're all kind of pulling in the same direction with the same indicators, really kind of leveraging this fun competition with regard to DDD implementation. So that actually brings me to the end of the demonstration part, and I'd really like to just open up to get any thoughts or questions on what we've presented today.
Thank you so much, Pete. I'm not seeing any questions thus far, so let me just take this opportunity to launch the polls and allow our users to engage with the polls and see what comes of that feedback. But Pete, another question from my side. I noticed there's some of the metric is measured in a term and some are measured in a month. Okay, to just to clarify that distinction for us.
Sure. So while it looks like some things are measured termly, they're actually measured every month. So, obviously we've got a final term database being submitted. That's a termly event, right? But for every scoreboard that gets produced and that gets produced in a month, there's a check that goes, okay, well, what % of the schools have submitted the previous term final database? And that's measured every month. So while it is a termly variable in itself, in that schools only submit a termly database once, we will check how many of those schools or what % of those schools each month have submitted that final term database. So in that sense, it's now a monthly measure of something that's a termly event effectively. But yeah, no, good question.
Very, very clear. Thank you so much, Pete. The polls are gathering. 15 of us have already answered. Please, as I said, colleagues, the last 2 questions, they're very important for us because they let us know what the sentiment is on the ground on what I think is a very, very exciting development that's coming down the pike. Let me see here if we have anyone with their hands raised. Oh, there was a question that came up that may or may not be directly related. We've invited IT support personnel, and they were just wondering about whether they should be in this session because they may or may not have access to that. I'm sure the thinking we had there, Peter, is that in case, of course, if this feature becomes live, there might be some questions on the ground, and we don't want them to be surprised.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's critical for us as we release this functionality to all of the provinces and all of the schools is we need more hands and feet of people that understand it. So some of the conversations that I've had with with district officials has been, like we need district directors and circuit managers, IT officials, everyone to be able to understand the workings of this functionality to answer it. Because as DDD, you know, we don't have enough, like Zavai is the only person in Mpumalanga, for example, so he's not going to be able to answer all the queries. So 100%, we absolutely need IT support to be familiar with this, and I think that's got to be part of the rollout plan. You know, the more people informed about this that are responsible for EMIS and IT related activities in the department, you know, that's the more we have of those people understanding what this is and being able to answer these queries, the better.
I couldn't agree more. We do have a follow-up question from Jacqueline, and she says, if I could just read it, we can view schools on the scoreboard and wanted to check if we can also view individual accounts, especially for the non-school user. They should visit schools well-informed and not ask for the non-school users. They should visit schools well-informed and not ask for all the data from the principal, but going to school and support the principal from an informed perspective. So I just questioned about individual scoreboarding there.
Yeah, Jacqueline, we had a massive debate about this. I think it was early last year, whether to make scoreboards individual or collective. And we originally actually wanted to start it on the individual basis. The only reason we didn't was, well, there were two reasons. One being that it would be easy for people to game it, you know, for someone to be like, oh, I want to look like I'm using the dashboard a lot, so I'm just going to log in a lot of times. So you could rack up points quite quickly. And then we also thought, you know, education is very much about collaboration between so many different moving parts within the department. Even within a school, there is so much going on that actually we need to kind of come together as a team on it. So that's why it's a team-based scoreboard. However, there is a way to see who's using the dashboard and who's not. And, you know, if you are interested in seeing, you know, sorry, you're a CES, seeing who of your DCESs or ACSs are using it, you know, have a chat to Zavai. You can pull the data, you know, if you want to kind of create leaderboards amongst your team. Certainly, there are at sort of head office in Gauteng that does happen. You know, stats get produced on who's got the most dashboard activity and report downloads and that, but that's typically an ad hoc request. But yeah, it's very doable. So I think chat to Zavai, you can definitely pull that kind of data for you around, you know, who you need to encourage in your team. But yeah, great question. It was a long debate for us.
Thank you very much, Peter. I've, with your permission, taken over the screen just to display our colleagues on the ground, these are their email addresses and the provinces that they operate in. And more importantly, on the bottom right, you have our help desk there. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us should you have any questions or query or any support that you need with regards to the DDD. I am looking at our polls and we are at 58%. I just want to reiterate and encourage us again to really mark out that poll. It's multiple choice, very easy to answer, 3 basic questions, and well, three basic responses and just 7 questions there. The first 5 questions, we just want to know how you felt about the service, the webinar, etc., so that it helps us to improve in the future. And the last 2 are very specific to this presentation. We want to get your sentiment on the ground. How are you feeling about this development? Well, Peter, I'm not seeing any other questions. Let me see here. Oh, just some thanks here from Notembegile, Ethrin, Galada, and Jacqueline. They just sending their word of thanks. Notembegile also adding that she's seeing the importance of going into the DDD dashboard and seeing some of these changes. So we appreciate that feedback. In the absence of question, Peter, I move to you for any final words.
Yeah, I think just from my side, a massive thanks for taking the time at the end of the week, you know, on a Friday for logging in and yeah, just being with us to witness the effectively this new functionality getting going. I think just a final bit of a sort of request from my side. If there are any questions or anything like that, please fire them our way. And not even just questions. If you've got concerns about the functionality or some things that you've seen that you think may have some adverse effects, or to like Gregory's point, saying what about trend analysis, etc., or any additional suggestions, please just give us a shout. We'd love to hear your thoughts, that we can build this in, because it's early days and we're going to be exploring it, but we're really excited about how all the different entities participating on the dashboard can get involved with it next year. So we're all ears and very open to hear your thoughts. So yeah, but with that, thanks from my side for dialing in. It's been great to share this new functionality with you, and excited about what it can do next year.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Pete, for joining us this afternoon. Also, a special shout out to Zavai. Thank you for joining the session and just giving us an ear on the ground on experiences that you've had in your province. Also want to thank you, our audience. We know it's a very busy time for you, but today and yesterday, we've had a very good attendance. Thank you for making time, and hoping this was worth your while. Of course, we will be sending the recording of this session and the slides that Pete was utilizing. And as you can see, we are displaying our colleagues. You could reach out to them should you need any queries, and our help desk is there too. With that, have an amazing weekend, and we will see you on the next one, which will be our final webinar for the year. Looking forward to seeing you. Thank you very much, and goodbye.